Harstem.
There is the Dutch Furnas player. And of course, up in the top right, the red Zerg player from Poland, it is Nerchio.
For some reason, I don't have a scroll right now, but I'm going to do my best as well.
You don't have a what?
I don't have a scroll key for some reason. Sorry.
A scroll key?
Yeah, I can't zoom in. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, so it looks like from the get-go here, we won't see anything super crazy. Like we saw Marine Lord in the previous map, just went all out to try to get a map from Maru. But no cheeky cheeses to start things off.
Yeah, I think even, as we were saying before, this is definitely a closer series than it looks. And I definitely think that Harstem coming into this one has a lot of confidence that he can take a game against Nerchio. At least one, you know, get off to a good start. I don't think he's going to go for anything insane to start the night. I mean, he could do some kind of 2-base play, of course. You know, we can't count that out just yet. But what I'm trying to say is that I think he definitely feels confident even going up against a guy like Nerchio.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, Harstem is one of those people, like, he's never going to not feel confident. Like, he's always confident in himself, in a good way, though. He always can perform really well. I remember the last time I was here in Shanghai, actually, it was for the GPL tournament. And he actually wasn't favored to win or anything, but that was year Harstem. 2016 was year Harstem, and he went all the way through, beat everyone in that tournament. So I just learned to never count this guy out, even when the statistics tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's very true. We'll see what he'll be able to do here in this game. You saw him very diligently scouting just to make sure there's no proxy hatcheries, nothing cheeky coming out of Nerchio to start the night. And Nerchio, he's just been fantastic in ZVP lately, even after the patch. He is just so dominant, loves to get aggressive early on, and just he's one of those Zergs that's kind of good at everything. Even though you don't see him really cheese or go for super aggressive plays early on, he's really good at that, but he's also fantastic at the macro play as well, which is what he's known for.
And a very quick Twilight coming out here from Harstem, so going to be interesting to see if we decide to go for something we've seen recently is, you know, that Dark Shrine, which I'm just such a big fan of. We saw Nightmare not too long ago in the GSL go for some crazy shenanigans, but Robot follow up right away after that. So, I mean, Harstem's going to be the one to put on pressure first here, while Nerchio, he needs to get the scouting intel completely, because he does see the front, he does see that there's no chrono boost on the Cybercore or anything, he just sees the chrono boost on the Nexus, so he doesn't have too much info just yet. He hasn't seen any tech buildings.
Yeah, you may want to sacrifice one of those Overlords here in a bit. It's kind of funny that he doesn't have an Overlord above the base here to try to go for some kind of sacrificial scout. It is going to be a Dark Shrine, as you were saying, so it looks like it may be that DT drop. Pretty nice build nowadays. You can get a lot of damage done early. Of course, you can also harass the third base at the same time. So we'll see how Nerchio can deal with this. He's not going to get the scout here anytime soon, so not going to have that good of an idea.
No, and I'm not really sure how he's going to scout either, because he's only been mining with one drone in gas right now, and it's going to take a while to get the lair. He doesn't get any blind spore crawlers, so the question is, now as he's getting his lair, it's going to start to finish up as we see the first DTs come out, but it won't be in time to get any overseers or anything like that. So the question now becomes, Nerchio not seeing what's going on really, just sees this kind of half wall off. Does he just go for the blind spore crawlers in time to time out for these kind of builds? Or will he just have to suffer the consequences of not getting any detection?
You better hope that he puts down those blind spores, because this Dark Shrine is about to finish up, and I believe that Warp Prism is already out on the map. Yeah, that has been made, so it is out on the map somewhere, getting ready to warp in those DTs. Here we go, 2 on the way, and I believe that is right outside those rocks. So here we go, 1 towards the third base and 1 going towards that natural.
Indeed, and the Warp Prism does survive as well, getting some shots by the Queens. Only getting 2 workers right away is Harstem, and there we go. 1 Spore Caller was made in the natural, but here we go again. Warp Prism getting the DT into the main. There's nothing here to really spot for the DTs, but the lair has finished now, and 2 overseers are in the making. And to be honest, only 2 drones for those 2 DTs and the Dark Shrine, and we don't see that kind of follow-up with the crazy blink or whatever for your DTs. He's just going into his Immortals instead, so he didn't do all too much, to be honest.
Yeah, he didn't do a ton of damage, but at the same time he put on a bit of pressure. You know, he didn't commit to too many DTs, he only went for 2, so he can morph that into an Archon. He forced a bunch of Lings out, he was able to safely get his third base up, and he's going to be able to easily transition into a nice mid-game here. He's even going to follow up with an Archon drop, it looks like here, just more of those 2 DTs into another Archon and go for that. It's another popular follow-up.
But the Changeling actually might spot this. Yeah, there we go. He does see the Archons as well, so Harstem right now has been found out, and Nerchio will have to pull some Queens to help against this. Now, he doesn't have any Roaches just yet, so we'll see if the Archons can start doing some damage. Not pulling any workers and just using the Lings, getting a nice surround, but of course Harstem making sure he does micro everything. Behind this, he's also grabbing a third, so this is basically just buying time for him.
Yeah, he's already got that up here. He's set up a nice wall too, so Ling run-bys are going to be a bit harder as well. Going to put down some forges, no doubt, a couple of cannons to make that even safer. And you could see how safe he is with the harass as well. He doesn't overcommit. He doesn't stay even to have his Warp Prism take all that much damage. And here we go. A nice little follow-up push as well. 1 Immortal. It's going to be 3 Archons? Or no, 4 Archons.
Oh my god!
This is a lot of Archons. 2 Adepts in the front to tank as well.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult to deal with, and actually these Ravages are very late. If Harstem finds these before they morph, that could be disastrous for Nerchio. Right now, Nerchio just pulling all his drones away, almost getting trapped in the corner here. And the third, there's virtually no defense here for Nerchio. He's going to pull all his Roaches, had to deal with some units in the background as well. And what a way to go here for Harstem. He just has to dodge some barrels, taking some shots, but he could easily kill this third.
Yeah, as long as he micros that 1 Archon back. He doesn't even have to. He's just going to take out that third and walk away. What a huge amount of damage being done here by Harstem. And he takes essentially no damage of his own. His third is totally safe. There's no counter pressure from Nerchio. He just puts down that third base once again, and he's going to have to play from behind here.
Yeah, and there's very little army as well for Nerchio, so the counterattack doesn't really have any way to deal lots of damage. And just using this Warp Prism really well is Harstem pulling back just in time, saving both Archons, and even having those defensive Adepts here with the Pylons, with Overcharge, so not taking any damage whatsoever. Nerchio right now is up against the walls, and it's completely different from what I imagined when I saw this matchup coming up.
Yeah, generally when you see Nerchio in these matchups against Protoss, he's just so dominant, but Harstem with that consistent pressure over and over with the DTs into the Archon drop and then the follow-up, it just looked like Nerchio was not expecting that much pressure coming over and over and over again, especially that third push with the 4 Archons and the Immortal. And that really cute play that he did with the 2 Adepts as well, just to warp those in, or rather shade those into the natural, just to draw some units away, just really distracting Nerchio and getting Harstem ahead here in this game.
Definitely. I think right now Harstem is just showing how much he can do just with pure multitasking against someone as good as Nerchio. Nerchio is a really fast player, really solid player, and you can see how much he's struggling. I'm really impressed with what Harstem has shown us so far, and he's taking a supply lead. He's still on that third base. Nerchio is trying to grab that fourth, but I mean, it won't do too much.
Really nice micro there from Harstem as well. He was almost able to get that queen. Very nicely timed transfuse as well to keep that alive, but you can see how active he is at the same time while macroing up back at home. He's going to finish up that charge and just morph in more and more Archons. On the other side for Nerchio, he does finish up that Baneling Nest and the Lurker Den at around the same time. But this push is beginning to move its way across the map, or at least take the middle of the map so he can get that fourth base up.
Yeah, I really like this for Harstem as well. The fact that he decides to expand forward, so he gets closer and closer to Nerchio. He doesn't split up, and he doesn't let Nerchio start splitting him up. And now we do see Lurkers, though, from Nerchio. I mean, this is the one unit that can help him hold against something like this, but this is just such a huge army.
Yeah.
He just got +1 done, and this, the +2 for Nerchio isn't even close.
Yeah, look at this. He's got 8 Archons to tank in the front, and they just do so much damage. A couple of nice Corrosive Biles are going to push Harstem back and buy Nerchio some more time to get some more Lurkers up, and those are going to be very, very key in the defense here for the Zerg player.
Yeah, once again, going in with the depths, and this time it does get dealt with really quickly. But I like what we pointed out earlier, that when he's pushing for one of the sides, those adepts can really just pull Nerchio apart a bit, because if you don't deal with them, they start killing off your workers. If you do deal with them, you don't have enough army. So a lot of harassment coming out from all sides here by Harstem, and Nerchio, he's basically just holding 1 point, almost like tower defense right now with these Lurkers. But he doesn't really seem to have a good plan to go into some kind of hive or any brood lords or anything. He's just basically trying to survive this incoming attack from Harstem.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we did see the charge finish up, and we do have baneling speed committed to here by Nerchio. Of course, that will knock out the front line pretty easily, but when you're going up against this many Archons, and even 4 Immortals in the back to do a nice bit of damage, he's gonna have to make a lot of banelings to take out this army, and that's it's gonna be pretty hard for him right now as he's just getting up that 4th base. And here we go, some more pressure out on the map. He wants to draw Nerchio's attention to the middle of the map as he goes for a drop into the back. But there are 5 Hydras here to defend, so nicely done by Nerchio. Yeah,
getting some of these overseers as well. We have to remember, there's still a Dark Shrine, so if he wants to at any point, he can start warping in these DTs. We actually have one with the side kind of harassment here to the left, and at the same time, getting on top of these lurkers before they burrow almost is Harstem. He's trying to push up into the natural. He's going through this. He's going to try to get on top of the lurkers, but has to back off for now. Nerchio just having a bit too much, but Harstem is getting dangerously close to Nerchio's bases right here.
I like how Harstem doesn't overcommit there. You know, he's just testing the waters. He goes in and sees just how many lurkers Nerchio has, and he's like, okay, I can't really fight that, but I can back off, take a decent trade. Oh, he loses the Warp Prism here, unfortunately, but he may be able to do a bit of damage with these chargelets in the main.
Oh, definitely. He's going to get quite a few of these workers. At the same time, that's a lot of units to deal with this. And now he goes right on top of Creep. He doesn't care. We do have a lot of lurkers, though. Right now, we're 13 lurkers.
The wall. Yeah. Blocking the 3rd and the 4th base. You're not getting through there.
Yeah, but the problem as well, though, is that you can just go on the other side. Like, you can just go on the right now, and you have to unbury your lurkers.
And he's not unburying the lurkers. They're not moving at all. Okay, finally he begins to move them. But Harstem already taking great trades here against these roaches and rather Hydras on the right side. I think he does have to back off right now as the lurkers do reposition. But right now it's been 4 base versus 4 base for a long time. Look at the 4th base even over here. 27 drones have gone down, and there's no mining. He may even lose his 4th base here.
Brilliant moves from Harstem. You gotta say, this is just awesome StarCraft we're watching right now.
Oh, if he just targeted it down, I think he would have gotten that hatchery.
I think so as well. But hey, you know, no one's gonna be perfect. He's gonna try to push up again, and you know what? He didn't kill the 4th, but he's really close to it. I'm sure he's going to try several times again. And the problem now is that Nerchio has to leave some units to keep this 4th alive. So while he's doing that, Harstem gets you know, more and more of an opportunity to just go through that middle and push there. The problem, though, being that Harstem is trying on Robotech with these Archons to just push through the lurkers, but it's going to be quite difficult. Sometimes you do see players going for either some Oracles to go tagging, you see some Tempest coming out for the late game, but right now we just now see the Bay at 13 minutes almost, so Harstem finally realizing that just making Archons and Immortals might not work out if Nerchio just keeps this positioning.
Yeah, probably wants to get some Disruptors out here to begin to just bolster that army and to force the lurkers to move back. I mean, he adds a 3rd robotics facility as well, so he can make 3 Immortals at a time if he wants to. Now going into Templar Archives, he's essentially getting all this tech. He's been on 4 bases for so long. He can essentially do whatever he wants, whereas Nerchio is only now getting that 4th base up and mining. I mean, it's barely even mining. Only 1 gas is mining at this point.
Yeah. And what I love as well is that Harstem does take the precaution of adding a few cannons per base. So he's always keeping safe against the possible harassment of Nerchio. But oh my god, Nerchio not in position. Harstem getting up the ramp for free almost. And these lurkers are definitely not ready to deal with this. And Nerchio staying on the left-hand side. I think Harstem could go up here right now. There's only like 3-4 lurkers in range.
Yeah, it was just a really scary concave. When you see that many Zerg units in a concave like that, you kind of begin to question whether or not you should go up. As we know, there was only 3 lurkers up towards the top, so maybe he could have skirted by, but then again, a pretty risky move at that. He almost catches some lurkers in the middle of the map. Looks like Nerchio wants to begin to move out and take some pressure off of his own bases by applying some of his own pressure. But here we go. Storm on the way and triple disruptor production.
Oh,
so we're going to have AoE City here on the side of the Protoss.
Yeah, this is the way to go for Harstem. And Nerchio right now, he's struggling to even try to max out. Harstem, of course, maxed out. +3 attack. He's going in with his first few disruptors. And this is dangerous right now. Nerchio needs to be able to deal with his disruptors somehow. He does get pulled out of position as well with these zealots coming out. We also see some units coming in on the left-hand side to try to deal with that 4th base. Now some static defense, but Harstem going with his main army, splitting up some DT, and this is just a beautiful positioning from Harstem.
I love the way he's playing this, man. This is so, so good. Here comes another disruptor shot. It's just barely going to miss. And it looks like he wants to pull him perhaps off the creep or at least away from the lurkers before he takes that fight. But as we were talking about, he's just consistently harassing. 2 DTs, 2 Zealots coming in here. He may be able to draw some of these units out of position.
Yeah, I really like how he's doing this. And he never did get that 4th base, unfortunately for him. But Nerchio, I mean, he's been holding on by the skin of his teeth, basically, at this point. And here we go, more Disruptor hits coming down. Doesn't get any lurkers, though. Nice reaction time here by Nerchio. Nice Disruptor hit on the right-hand side. Oh, my God.
That might just be it. He just took out nearly half the army of what is not lurkers of the Zerg right now. Let's see if he begins to push in here. Look at that army for the Protoss. He doesn't have that many Archons right now, but so many Disruptors and a nice bit of Immortals in the back. Now he's got Storm as well.
Oh, my God. Just make it stop. This is so disgusting from Harstem. Right now, Nerchio just trying to survive somehow. He's making more Hydras and Lings, but you can't deal with Storm and Disruptors. A beautiful hit again, just killing more and more. And that's GG. What a game from Harstem.
Unbelievable. Harstem putting on a show here. It didn't look like Nerchio was ready for this kind of play out of Harstem. He just got outplayed. That's funny to say when you're talking about Nerchio here in his EVP.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked. I was so prepared to see Harstem, try some cool builds, and it's going to be perhaps a close game. But after the first few minutes and after some harassment, Harstem just pulled ahead. He got his 3rd base down, and when he killed the 3rd of Nerchio, after that, it was almost done. Like Nerchio, basically, he tried to just survive as long as possible.
Yeah, as you're saying, it really just began off of that pressure, the small pressure into a bit more with the Archons, but then that push towards the 3rd base, that was really what broke the camel's back there. So getting Nerchio behind early on seems to be the key here for Harstem in this series. And that was on Overgrowth. We are going to be jumping into Echo, I believe, for game number 2.
Yes, we do have Echo as our 2nd map, and if we do go to a 3rd map, it's going to be Whirlwind, of course, as we did have... we do have best of 3s coming up all day long until we get to the playoffs. So for you guys who don't really know the format, of course, it's round robin. So what's so great about these groups is that you will play everyone in your group. You won't miss a single player.
You'll play a best of 3 against every single player in your group.
Yeah.
So
I feel bad for Maru and TY's groups.
It's a lot of games, Yeah, they all get to play one best of 3 against that player.
Yeah.
They just kind of get to sweep the group. I wonder if anybody's going to make any stands against the Korean players in the early stages, because generally, as we were saying, it's like, okay, first place, they get on through, and then maybe someone challenges them in the later stages because the better players get through. But we'll see if anyone can make a dent in them at least early on.
We'll see. Actually, talk about that. These are the other 2, except for Marine Lord, who could probably do that. I mean, talk about this group against Maru. We talk about Maru being, probably the favored one, and then we have Nerchio, and then you have Harstem and Marine Lord right after that. So Marine Lord can take down Maru, but then you have Harstem, and then you have Nerchio. So it's up to these 2 guys that we're watching right now, and that's why this one series is so important, of course. Now, as we move into Echo, though, it's going to be a bit easier to get that pocket 3rd almost, but as we go into 4th bases and stuff, things can get kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think Harstem, if he can just kind of play that macro style that he's been playing with a bit of pressure and get his own 3rd base up on good time, I feel like he's got a pretty good shot in this one as well. I mean, Echo has been, pretty decent for Protoss in the past as well. I'm really feeling the Harstem energy here in this room right now, especially after that first game. So
I gotta say, like, I hate ever being like, on either side of a player, but that was beautiful StarCraft. Like, that was just exactly how we were supposed to play it.
Fantastic.
There was units everywhere. There was never time for Nerchio to just like breathe in and breathe out a few times.
And that's that's sometimes what you have to do against Zerg players as well. You can't just let them macro up, get 4 bases, all their gases, and 80 drones, and then just make a million units. You got to pressure them from the get-go consistently throughout the game, and that's exactly what Harstem did. So we are going to be jumping into this game in just a bit. It looks like we're just waiting for English production to give us the go. Both players are ready. We are in the lobby, so thanks for sticking with us, guys. So we're ready to get this going. I suppose we just got to say it in the lobby. Yeah, perhaps.
There we are.
We got the first day kind of figuring out the way things are going. So bear with us, guys. It looks like everybody's ready to go though. So the countdown has begun, or it's about to begin.
Yeah, it's about to.
Yeah. So. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see if Nerchio can fight back. It is the first game of the day for both of these players, so even as we saw in the Mara versus Marine Lord game, he kind of was started off really shaky in the very, very early game in the trades between the early units. So maybe Nerchio is just feeling a bit rusty, you know, coming all the way from Poland over to China. I mean, you have to say the same thing about Harstem as well, but, you know, maybe Harstem adjusts a little bit better so far. So we'll see if Nerchio can kind of, you know, relax and take 2 games in a row, because that's what he's going to have to do to have a good shot out of getting out of this group. Because if he drops this best of 3 against Harstem, he may have to win against Maru to get out of the group.
Oh,
so
wow, yeah.
It's going to be pretty hard.
It's going to be super hard. And I have to say as well, when you're facing someone as experienced as Harstem, because if you face a new player who has his cookie cutter builds they can do against you, if they get a point on you, you kind of know what they're doing, you kind of know what they're up to, so you can kind of try to adapt. But when you're facing someone as experienced as Harstem, now that he knows he just needs 1 more map, he can easily throw out some really obscure cheeses 2 times in a row. And the chance of you taking both of those is kind of difficult. So, I mean, there's always the possibility of that. So now you have to scout just that much more than you did in the previous game.
It's always a very sticky situation when you get behind in any series. So Nerchio definitely going to have to think about that coming into game number 2 of Harstem versus Nerchio. Let's jump right into that.
Right, we're here on Echo, and in the top left-hand side, we have the red Zerg player right now, down 1 game in his best out of 3. And of course, it is Nerchio.
Nerchio going to have to win 2 in a row. He's up against the Dutch Protoss in the blue. It is Harstem. Only 1 win away from getting a very important best of 3 win here against Nerchio.
Indeed, and I gotta say, like, that's probably the 2nd most important series that he can play, or difficult series. Yeah. So Harstem coming in here with 1 map already won into Echo, and Echo is such a great map for pros right now. If you want to go into 3 bases and just defend those against Zerg, because you have the kind of choke point that just covers all the 3 bases right now. But that said, you know, it's Nerchio we're talking about, and he decided to veto some other maps, so he definitely has something planned for this one. I do believe that this was Harstem's pick.
Yeah, Nerchio win for the Overgrowth first, and then Harstem picking this one.
Yeah. This is going to be very interesting to see if Nerchio decides to do any kind of early, like mid-game aggression or anything. Because what we did see from Harstem was that he decided to go into like just crazy harassment right off the bat. And I think even on this map, it can be really difficult for Nerchio to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, even in the main base, you got a nice little angle if you just send your Warp Prism up the left side of the map to just drop straight in there. You can also drop right behind the natural. A bit of a faster path to get there as well. So we'll see if he does want to go for that same build, or if he does want to mix it up. No crazy 1 base cheeses just yet. So even though maybe
I can pray.
You were hoping for those.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, like, I'm a huge fan of that, just because I was always a big fan previously. Like, you know, the old school plays like Idra, you know, and Ret.
Yeah.
I was the same when I was laddering a lot, but then I realized, you know, how boring it is to cast the same game over and over again. So I'm always really grateful when we get to see these super early cheeses or all-ins. And once again, we do see a really early Twilight coming out here from Harstem. Nerchio this time does send in an Overlord to see the beginning of the build, but I really want to see Nerchio this time park this Overlord right next to the main and start going in and just scout for the tech. I mean, last game, he basically lost because of that.
He just decided to forego it. He wanted to spend his gas elsewhere. He didn't even put a Overlord in position, even a slow Overlord, towards the main to try to get any kind of scouting information. So it seems like he is going to change that up here. I'm not sure if he is going to go for the Overlord speed. That would make his lair pretty late if he doesn't want to go for it at this point. So maybe he'll just rely on that 1 slow Overlord, perhaps even just to spot the 3rd base. Maybe he's gone into this mindset where he feels like he doesn't even need scouting at the main for the Protoss. And maybe he just messed up that first game. So we'll have to wait and see if he can hold it off again, because it is the same build here, the Dark Shrine coming out with that Warp Prism once that robotics facility does finish.
Yeah, and once again, it can be disastrous for someone like Nerchio to try to deal with this if you don't scout it in time, because we have the same timing from Nerchio where we do see the lair come out, and it is in a timing where you're going to see the Overseers come out quite quickly, but it's not enough time to start dealing with this build just blindly. You need that 1 Spore Crawler to really be able to make sure you don't take any damage. We did see him add the blind Spore Crawler in his natural last time, so we could see the same here, that he doesn't have too many drones in his 3rd base and just loses, you know, the 1-2 that we did see on Overgrowth.
Yeah. And as we said before, it really is about the follow-up aggression, too. You do a bit of damage with your first 2 DTs. Maybe you get a couple of drones. Maybe you deny some mining. But then the 2 Archons come in. You draw some units out of position. You know, you send in some Adepts. And then the follow-up with the 3 or 4 Archons that he had with the Immortal and the 2 Adepts, and then the follow-up warp-in of the Adepts. That's really what did the big damage. So this time around, we do see 6 Roaches coming out, as well as another Blind Spore. So I think Nerchio should be a bit better prepared for this push this time.
Yeah, even the Overseer on the way. I mean, he's making drones at this point. He's so safe. Making a few Roaches, and he's going to deal with this right away. He might even get a DT if he's lucky. And getting close to killing it.
Oh, this is real close, and he does get it.
And the final DT is getting a few kills here. 2 workers is a good start, but he's going to get caught as well. Almost! Nice here. Getting the DT out just in time. But then again, you know, we see exactly the same thing from Harstem here. He's making the Immortals in the background, and we could easily see him just whoop in a few more DTs, make that Archon, start the Archon drops, and behind it, these Immortals start coming out. So this time, Nerchio has to realize exactly the same thing is happening. And, you know, the danger is exactly the same as the previous game.
Looks like he may even go for a 1 Archon drop to start this off. Even faster aggression, but when you're going against already 7 Roaches and the Blind Spore, you're not really going to find as much damage as you did in game number 1. So we talk about, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But in this sense, I mean, Nerchio is just so prepared for this build this time around.
Definitely. He's dealing with this well. And I think as well, someone like Nerchio, he's seen this so many times that he's got to know exactly how to deal with it after losing to it once. He does have his 3rd base now completely saturated. He's getting his hard list den, and as long as he doesn't take any unnecessary damage from the Archons, I do see him going into this kind of comfortable mid game where you kind of have to deal with the Protoss units on equal terms, basically.
Yeah. It looks like in this game, you know, we didn't see Harstem go for that follow-up push, the 3rd one that we saw in game number 1, but instead he got a faster 3rd, but he essentially just let Nerchio get his 3rd up for free here, and that's fully saturated, as you said, a 4th base coming out now. That's really going to be the point of contention on the map here. Does Harstem want to go for a push there before Lurkers are out, before there's too many Hydras out on the map, or is he just going to sit back and try to macro up on 3 bases?
Yeah, we're going to see if he decides to go into that kind of, you know, 66, 74 kind of worker number that you really want as a Zerg player to go into the late stages of the game. But this is a very nice trap here from Nerchio. If he gets the warp, woof, that's a nice snipe.
That is just huge. 2 Archons and a Warp Prism. You shut down all the harass that was going down, and you just burn so much gas of the Protoss. Very, very nice snipe there from Nerchio.
Harstem getting a bit too eager with the harassment, and now we see Nerchio getting quite aggressive. He's droning behind this, but he does want to put on some pressure. This could actually work to his advantage. He does force a few warp-ins from Harstem if he does go for the attack, and he can also just do this to poke a bit at his opponent to see exactly what the army consists of, because behind this, you know, Harstem is really trying to gear up. You know, he's getting his Robo Bay for probably those disruptors. We're going to see the 2nd Robo facility as well, and he's getting behind this, you know, his War Prism is +1, his charge is done just now. He's really gearing up, but adding all that infrastructure also means you don't really have a strong army.
Look at the direction that Nerchio comes in here. He checks the 4th. He's like, okay, no 4th yet, that's good. Let me begin to poke here, find some damage. He's not overcommitting with this army. He's inviting Harstem down the ramp. He's like, if you want to fight me down here in my concave of this many Hydras, go ahead. But he's not going to go up that ramp. What he wants to do right now, he droned up to 71. He's going to get that 4th base up and saturated, may even add a 5th base, but he's getting all of his tech, getting those upgrades, and getting a very, very strong army. But he's not going to overcommit with this bit of pressure out on the map.
No, definitely not. And I really like the decision here that he goes into the Lurker Den, and he doesn't overcommit. Just as you point out, the key here is not to throw out any units until you can go into those Lurkers. You have to find, you know, your timing. You don't want to break before then. We do now have that War Prism coming out, and these Lings are kind of splitting up here, looking for anything really, and almost finding the War Prism. Won't find it this time though.
Don't move, Harstem. Just stay still. Oh man, he's going to fly attention right into the Hydras. That should go down immediately, and down it goes. Harstem just having no luck in game number 2.
Yeah, didn't go all too well this time around, and I gotta say, Nerchio, like, things have just swapped completely from the previous game. Last time we saw Harstem being up 30-40 supply almost the entire game. This time around, Nerchio's doing fine. He's adding all these lurkers. We saw what a hard time Harstem had against the lurkers. Even as he started adding disruptors, he really needed a ton of disruptors to really deal with the bulk of Nerchio's army.
Yeah, and he needs more. He's trying to pump them out 2 at a time as fast as possible because look at his 4th base. It is just so vulnerable over there on the left side. Nerchio can split up his units, try to come into the 3rd base, draw this army out of position. Meanwhile, the rest of his army coming in towards that 4th base, and I think that's going to have to be canceled. There's no way Harstem can defend that there.
Oh my god, and this main army of Harstem is actually getting surrounded. You have to watch out as Nerchio so don't throw away too many Hydras, but that 4th base was cancelled by Harstem, and he's barely holding on. He was taking a lot of damage from those Banelings as well, and he can't go to either side right now. Harstem, what does he do at this point? Does he just push?
It looks like he wants to fight here as the lurkers are not burrowed, and Nerchio is actually going to retreat now, giving up that high ground. So a nice move by Harstem to take that high ground with the disruptors. Nerchio just not looking for that moment in time. The Nerchio, it looks like he wants to regroup perhaps and come from multiple sides. Meanwhile, though, the Banelings are going to roll on through, doing a nice bit of damage to those Zealots.
Yeah, it's all about dodging these Disruption Novas right now. And oh, that was a pretty nice hit actually from Harstem. He's dealing a lot of damage with these. Oh my god, Nerchio, no!
He was taking huge hits in the last game, and now he is again with just a couple or 3 of those Disruptor Novas. He gets right back in the game, Harstem does.
Yeah, that's one way to get right back into it. I mean, that's exactly what you need to do. And we saw a Spire here from Nerchio behind this, so he could easily go for that transition. But now he has to make Hydras again. He has to make units so he doesn't just straight out die to Harstem. And suddenly, you know, Nerchio was ahead by almost 40 supply. Just now it's equalized again. He's on equal supply, and Harstem has such an army. He has so many disruptors as well. Although he doesn't have a 4th base, the army is just the big frightening thing right now.
Yeah, look at this. I would love if he begins to get that 4th base up and just continue going into a macro game. Maybe he feels like he should just pump everything into army units, though, because he feels like he's gotten enough of an advantage. It looks like that's what he is going to do. Just begin to push in with those disruptors, not trying to take that very hard 4th base, and just go with the advantage that he has gotten for himself in this game.
Yeah, killing some of his own Zealots, but very nice at killing several Lurkers. Right now we see Nerchio for a big wraparound with all these Banelings. Could it work? He's heading for the Disruptors. This is a pretty good angle for Nerchio, and Harstem is caught right out on the map. Are the disruption hits good enough, though?
He gets a couple of decent ones, but he needs more. Nice one there. He gets a great kind of escape path there down the right side, so that's actually really nice, using the map to his advantage. But once again, as I was saying before, this is very, very hard to take that 4th base, and Nerchio very nicely just going to force another cancel here.
Yeah, I love this from Nerchio. He decides that he's just going to run around the army if he can't fight it. Now he's going for the wraparound once again. I love this from Nerchio. A lot of damage from the Disruptors, but getting this wraparound, these Disruptors are for the taking of Nerchio. Beautiful surround, 360, and everything goes down. GG, and Nerchio takes the 2nd map.
He's sticking in this one. He's not going to give it up for free. He's going to make it interesting and force a game number 3. And very nicely done there by Nerchio. You know, really just using the map to his advantage, you know, sticking back, defending very well against the harass very early on, not getting behind and saying, okay, I can take my 4th base pretty easily because I see you're hunkering down here, but you're never going to take your 4th base. It's not going to be like that last game. This is not overgrowth. So really working that map to his advantage.
Definitely. And this is kind of what happens on these kind of maps, like Echo, for instance, when you have a 4th base that's so susceptible to these kind of runarounds. And I gotta say, Nerchio did exactly what he needed to do. I mean, such amazing hits from Harstem there, almost equalized the game.
Yeah,
but,
that was kind of scary for Nerchio at that point.
Yeah, but you know, with beautiful surrounds and a lot of run-bys, you can make a lot happen. I just have to correct myself, by the way. We're not going to head to, well, we're heading to Daybreak.
Yeah, going into Daybreak here for game number 3. This is really anyone's game going into game number 3. I mean, Harstem showed a fantastic game in game number 1, an immense amount of pressure. Daybreak, you know, perhaps Harstem is going to begin to be able to put on that pressure once again on a map like this compared to Echo.
Yeah, I think he might be able to, but still, I think since he did the same build twice now, and in exactly the same way, just that he kind of swaps around, not going for the 3rd base push this time, I think Nerchio kind of knows what's up at this point. Like, he knows what to look for. He knows that this, you know, exactly the timings of it. I think Harstem definitely can't do the same build. Like, he has to pull something else at this time.
I just hope he has something else prepared, because when you do it 2 games in a row, it's like, well, you know, what it seems like that is the map that, or rather the build that he was practicing the most, and said, okay, if I'm going to beat Nerchio, this is going to be the way to do it. So. But as you said, I definitely agree with you. I don't think he can do the same build and get away with it against someone like Nerchio, someone of the caliber of Nerchio. If you think that your opponent will make some mistakes, then maybe you go for it again and say, hey, I can get that amount of damage that I did get in game number 1 again. But here in game number 3, I just don't think it's going to happen. So let's jump into it, on to Daybreak for game number 3.
Here we are, and in the top right-hand side, in the red trunks, it is going to be your red Protoss Harstem.
There he is, going up against the blue Zerg from Poland. It is Nerchio bringing it back in game number 2, tying it up. And this is anyone's game at this point, going into the final game of the series.
It really is. And I gotta say, Harstem went for the same build twice. Now sending out a really early probe here.
Tricky, tricky. What's it gonna be? I mean, I suppose he could just send it straight to the natural and try to block a hatchery, but he may just be slightly late here. It's going to be very, very close. Oh, it looks like Nerchio's just going to give it up. He's like, okay, I'll just go for my 3rd base first. So yeah, just a probe purely to disrupt that natural from going down. And he will send that up towards the 3rd base to scout. Okay, he did go for the 3rd base first here.
This does make it more difficult, though, to deal with the, you know, the first adepts coming out and all that stuff, because now you can't pull your 2nd queen down. This should be fine for Nerchio. Like, he knew exactly what to do when he saw the first probe. He right away goes for this, the 3rd base location as his natural. And everything else kind of just works out the same. You know, the timings are kind of the same. The only difference is now that you get, you kind of need to connect your bases really quickly, though. Like, you either need to add your 3rd base quite quickly, or you need to connect with creep. Just because as soon as you start seeing any kind of pressure, you don't really have the time to walk across with slow units.
Yeah. And Harstem very smartly going for something like this on this map. Daybreak, a map you can kind of just sit back and get your bases up, very safe for the Zerg. So wants to put on a bit of pressure even earlier than he did in the past 2 games. So I wonder if he will follow up with another push once again, as both you and I have agreed we don't want to see the same build, but perhaps a different pressure build in this game.
Definitely. I think Harstem's strength is going to be these pressure builds. But as you say, he... you know, has he even prepared anything else? Because if you have a really solid build that you might think you can get 2 games from, you know, what else have you prepared? Are you just going to go into macro? Do you have any just as specific builds prepared for someone like Nerchio? Nerchio now will be able to get this probe away, but once again, we do see that Twilight right away.
Yeah, I was watching the build of Harstem, and it was exactly the same up until this point, so... Is he going to make the Robo into Dark Shrine, into War Prism, into double DT drop once again? It's looking that way. And
yeah, there we go. Robo coming down again. I don't know about this, though. I mean, Nerchio, it's almost like he's practicing against Harstem against this build. Like, he's done twice in a row now. And the 2nd game was just such a fantastic defensive game from Nerchio. Like, he barely took any damage at all.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I would... definitely expect Nerchio to, even if he doesn't scout this, play it very safe and say, okay, you've done it 2 times in a row. What's the chance that you do it a 3rd time in a row? Decently high. If you've only practiced 1 build for a PvZ, something that we didn't really mention before, actually, is if you look at this group, I think there's only Nerchio as a Zerg. Am I incorrect?
That could actually be true. I have to, yeah, I can't think of anyone else.
I think so.
Yeah.
So unless Rex is
no, wait, yeah, Rex is Zerg.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Rex.
So, you know, you got to prepare for a lot of different matchups here, not just the PvZ matchups. So you want to go with a very practiced build. That's something that pro gamers do very often. And it looks like that's what Harstem has done for this PvZ series, especially up against Nerchio. So Nerchio, if I'm him, I'm like, okay, I'm doing the same thing. I'm making 7 Roaches, Blind Spore, and I defend this with Flying Colors once again. On a map like Daybreak, I should be able to crush this guy.
Yeah, because right now Nerchio's vision is 0. He hasn't seen anything. And last time he did see the War Prism, which was kind of tip-off. And as soon as he saw the War Prism, he just added the Spore Crawler again. Now we kind of need to see the Spore Crawler, though. He did see it with his Overlord if he was paying attention, and that would go
immediately.
The Spore Crawler. Yeah.
Immediately that goes down, and this is going to be interesting. Does he go for the harass at the third base this time? Because spores are going down in the natural and the main, but nothing at the third, not that I can see. No, there's just nothing here. There is an Overseer that is morphing.
Yeah, it's morphing just in the edge here, so he should be able to get the Overseer here quite quickly. You just have to make sure you don't lose too many drones in the meanwhile, and yeah, he's going to lose 2. It's not too bad. He's going to lose another one in his main base, but the DTs now haven't been able to do way too much. And
the biggest damage they're getting done is this huge pull at the third. I mean, he killed 4 drones in total, and he kept both DTs alive, and he forced a couple of huge pulls. It looks like the second DT may have gone down, but still a lot better damage than what he got in game number 2. So he must be feeling decently good about this one.
Oh, definitely. It makes 2 more DTs. The first DT did actually survive, so now he's going to have 2 Archons to drop again. It looks like this is the build we're going to see from Harstem in the future, you know? He really seems to like this.
The Harstem build.
Yeah, it's the Harstem PvZ. And as he's going to come in and drop these, it's all about, once again, not taking too much damage, because even if you have those 2 queens, it's all about just making sure that you do not lose any workers.
And here we go, the double Archon drop coming in, and a very fast follow-up of charge. Let's take a look at that a little bit later on, after we see how much damage this Archon drop does get done. Nice micro, just popping one in, popping one out, killing all of the Lings, and even killing a creep tumor there. And is going to back off now. Again, not overcommitting with the harass, just as he did in game number 1. This is looking a lot more like game number 1 than it did of game number 2.
Yeah, he does get the third base very quickly though, but like the way he's dealt damage is much better than game number 2. And I just love this from Harstem, that the fact that even if Nerchio on paper does exactly what he's supposed to, Harstem is just doing, he's just doing really well still. He's killing off these creep tumors, keeping the creep back, and he's killing off a few workers here and there. And most of all, he's keeping Nerchio back. Nerchio hasn't even gone out and tried to poke at anything. He hasn't gotten much intel at all. And we have this third base on Harstem completely set up, as Nerchio is trying to add his fourth base, which is going to probably be the place of fighting in the future.
And here we go. The charge is going to finish up. 4 more gateways were added, so he's going to go up to a total of 8, it looks like?
Yeah.
7.
7 in total,
so
yeah.
Still a lot of gateways out here. A couple of Immortals, it looks like 3 in total for this push, and I wouldn't be surprised if he begins to pressure that fourth base here.
I think this is exactly the point you need to pressure, because it's in the front, and you do have the opportunity as well to just get a few DTs or charge slots and send them to the third at the same time. Nice big warp in here on charge slots, and we're going to see this timing come out of Harstem. Lots of charge slots and Archons, even some Immortals in the background to help out. And not a lot here from Nerchio. He does have a lot of Roaches, but it's not really great against this composition. We're going to see if he can kite enough, though. He does have a lot of creep to work with.
Yeah, good kiting so far, but those Immortals in the back are just getting so much damage done. A nice force field to cut off a bunch of those Roaches in the front. Another huge warp in the back here. And Harstem, this is a huge push for him. He should be able to take out that fourth base easy peasy. And it looks like he will do just that. A bunch of Zealots going even towards the main. It looks like he's not even going to go for the fourth base. He wants to kill the army right now.
Very nice here. He splits off a few of these Zealots because they're catching all these Roaches that were just coming out. He's going to kill so much of their reinforcements. Some nice balance coming down, but that's not going to be enough. A lot of damage being dealt here by
the force field.
Yeah, Harstem is just doing so well against Nerchio. Nerchio desperately just making Roaches right now.
I feel like Harstem, I wish he would back off and just take that fourth away. It's just so safe, you know. And Nerchio just slowly beginning to get more and more units here. And I feel like maybe he even has to back off at this point. He could have taken that fourth for free. Okay, wait, let's wait. He is going to push in once again, and actually Nerchio splitting up those units a bit. Has to be careful.
Yeah, this is a very precise timing from Harstem right now, though. He has to make sure he doesn't take too much damage from these biles, but he's getting a lot of units with a force field. But I agree with you, he's taking a fourth behind this, so now he's realizing he's not going to win with this. He should have killed the fourth base.
Yeah, and I feel like he's kind of missed that timing at this point. He is beginning to warp in more and more Zealots there, not the 8, or rather 7 Zealot warp in here. But look at this, Nerchio, he's backed off, and now he's going to take out that fourth base. So he finally does get that. Nerchio slightly out of position. It is kind of hard to defend both of these bases on this map because you have to walk around that huge horseshoe from the third base all the way around to the fourth base with those Roaches. So nicely done by Harstem, is abusing that map there, does take out the fourth base, has his fourth base almost completed here as well, and the pressure does not end from this Protoss.
No, I gotta say, Harstem, he just has to make sure he doesn't overstay his welcome. But he's up to 73 probes, so as long as he doesn't lose his army, he's in a fantastic position. But he's got to watch out. Nerchio right now wrapping around here. Harstem is trapped, but the question is, who's going to be the one to deal more damage? Nice surround here by Nerchio, and these units are not going to come out here alive.
Yeah, really, really nice surround here. A couple of decent force fields to save the left side of Harstem's army. He did commit to taking out that third base, but he didn't kill it once again. He's having trouble with this, and now another huge orbit coming in. The drones are off the line. Is Harstem going to be able to break the back of the Zerg?
I don't think so. I mean, we see every single Immortal right now going down. He killed 7 workers. But at this point, like, there's no army left for Harstem. Nerchio does have one, though, and he's going to go straight for the heart of Harstem. Harstem, he could lose a lot here, if not even the game.
I think he may just have to give up that 4th base. If he can somehow hold on to 3 bases here with his Immortals and maybe send in another drop towards the 3rd to kill it, maybe he holds on in this game, but...
There's literally 1 Immortal right now.
Yeah, I think he has to sacrifice the 4th. He's going to use a bunch of overcharges and try to hold the top of the ramp. That Immortal getting dangerously low. It does just barely survive. Nice micro here from Harstem, but still, the Roach pressure does continue.
It does. Harstem right now, though, is buying some time, and there's a Muta switch coming out here from Nerchio, so he's going to decide to attack an army that doesn't have too much anti-air. You have these Archons, though, and until you get a lot of Mutas, it's kind of hard to deal with the Archons, especially now with the +2, since the Mutas don't have any upgrades at all. Something we have to remember as well is the fact that Nerchio doesn't have any upgrades whatsoever. And Harstem, who's gone up to +2 already, he's going to deal a lot of damage as soon as we get up to those higher army counts again.
Yeah, we were so focused on the fights that kind of just happened in the background as all of this was going on. And I incorrectly said that he was going to lose his 4th base as well. He does keep that alive. The question is, how much does Harstem lose to these Mutas? How much damage can Nerchio get done?
Yeah, that's a good question. Harstem right now, he does siege with his Zealots, and he does have a cannon together with a lot of pylons and the overcharge ready. So he should be kind of okay here as long as he reacts in time. Gonna force a few overcharges here. 1 Muta goes down, and now it's all about how much damage he can do. 3 Stalkers are warped in, but that's not going to be enough to deal with this. The rest of the army of Harstem is going for the attack again, but Nerchio's army count is actually doing quite alright right now.
Yeah, those Mutas getting a nice bit of damage, forcing a bunch of Stalkers to be warped in. Already 9 probes have gone down. That cannon does still survive, but the whole top side of that mineral line does go down, and here we go. Harstem pushing in, taking a lot of damage from those corrosive piles, seemingly slightly desperate here as he does go for the attack, but that is still a very scary Protoss army.
Definitely. I think right now Nerchio's doing exactly what he needs to, though. He killed 20 workers so far. He's going to kill many, many more. And as he's defending right now, you can see he's only kiting. He's using the biles to be able to kite. He's killing several Archons, and as soon as these Zealots close in on him, he just backs off. He doesn't have creep all the way, which would be really helpful for him, but still he's doing such a fantastic job with this.
Yeah, I'm glad you point that out. The army control from Nerchio in this series has been stellar so far. And look at this. These Mutas still survive. I mean, he's not trying to keep them alive and build a big Muta ball, but look at how much damage they've gotten done. 30 probes in total. That's essentially, you know, taking away an entire 1/3 of the economy here from the Protoss player, Harstem.
Definitely.
And he's not done. He's getting more damage done.
Yeah, he is. And, I mean, someone needs to kill these Mutas soon. 35 workers have gone down, and that's going to be the final kill of the Mutas, of course. But, I mean, there's nothing left of the army for Harstem even. He did kill a lot, though, for Nerchio. Nerchio's also down to 56 workers against 43, and Harstem still does have 4 bases. So he's definitely not out of it, but his army is taking quite a bit of a beating, and Nerchio now, he needs to be looking into those upgrades, because if we start seeing Harstem getting his +3, +1, and just keep adding to this army, when he's maxed out, there's no way Nerchio can take those fights.
Yeah, Nerchio somehow has to transition here into some sort of higher tech, be it upgrades, be it Hydras. I mean, right now, he's on Roach, Ravager, Baneling. I mean, he has the Baneling nest. He's not making any Banelings right now. Looks like he's making a second Baneling nest by mistake here, unfortunately. Nice DT harass is going to force another drone pull, kind of bring Harstem back in that economy game and bring that army away so he can bolster his army once again.
And neither player right now is making any more workers. They're basically just saying we're going to add units until one of us dies.
The best kind of StarCraft.
The right kind of StarCraft.
The one where just non-stop fighting goes down. And look at this position now. Nerchio is going to just barely get back in time to get a concave at the top of that ramp. We'll see if Harstem can perhaps abuse this.
Yeah, Harstem's better pay attention, though. That's a lot of corrosive biles, and if you look away for a second, you're going to lose your entire army. Right now, though, he does have a lot of Immortals with this, and those roaches are just going to be evaporated if he tries to take a straight-up engagement. But we do see Nerchio keep poking. He's looking for those Archon kills, and I really like this for him.
He just barely doesn't get that Archon on the right side, but nice try at sniping that Archon. The one thing that Harstem is missing in this army is a Warp Prism. He's only making that now. He's been so focused on making more and more Immortals trying to go for this fight, but he hasn't even made that. And here we go. Oh, the DT's coming into the third base. Is he going to be able to snipe it? Yes, he will. Just barely. The last shred there on that scythe is going to take that down. Meanwhile, a bunch of drones going down here at that fourth base. Will he be able to take a nice fight here at the top of this ramp?
Yeah, very nice, I'm going to say, as he's coming up the ramp. But then again, now he's kind of trapped, to be honest. He needs to be able to connect, and there's actually DTs in this army, and there's no Overseer. So DT can deal a lot of damage here. Harstem right now is doing a fantastic job, and he's isolated Nerchio. It might have been a misstep to go all this way up.
I would have to agree with you. GG is called, and that's going to be it. Harstem takes the series 2-1. What a result here in this Group B. Unbelievable games played there by Harstem.
Definitely. I gotta say, I was so impressed, especially with the first map. Coming out straight out with this very build, and he just crushed Nerchio. Now, in the second game, Nerchio managed to kind of, get his way back. He was defending really well. But for the final one, just, Harstem playing phenomenally, and a lot of positional games.
Yeah, it's just such smart play out of the Protoss, out of Harstem, because he knows how to abuse that map of Daybreak. He's like, okay, if I can pressure you when you take that fourth and go for a nice chargelet Archon Immortal timing with, only 2 sentries for some key force fields, I'm really going to do a ton of damage, and that's exactly what he did. Some really nice harass, consistent DT harass throughout the series, and really looking like one of the big contenders in this group.
Definitely. I gotta say as well, it all depends on how he's prepared now for his PvT and his PvP. But taking out Nerchio, the first thing you do is someone who's, like a lot of people say, he's probably like top 3, top 4 contender for the entire event here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and taking him out as your first series, like you haven't even warmed up. This was your warm-up almost, right?
Yeah.
That's a way to go.
So very nicely done there by Harstem. We are going to jump to a quick break, guys, before we get to that next match. It is going to be Stefano versus XY coming up next.